Hi everyone, welcome to the Piano Keys. I'm so glad that you're here. I want you to go on a trip with me. Back in time, I'm 10 years old, sitting in some college hall in Pasadena, California. And it's a hall that's circular, so you can see pretty much everyone else that's in the audience. And the audience is higher up, and then on the ground floor is a stage with a grand piano. And I'm sitting apart from my parents in the section for the performers, and I'm at what was called Bach festivals. I had to do a Bach festival every single year, whether I wanted to or not. The music had to be memorized. And so all these kids, I don't know, it seemed like 100 at the time, but it's probably like 20, 25 kids, would all take turns performing Bach from memory. If you know anything about Bach, a lot of his music sounds very similar, and there's a lot of repetitions, but the repetitions change. They change keys, they change this, they change that. So it's very challenging to memorize Bach. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to one after another of these performers play. I don't have my sheet music with me, and I'm thinking, how does my piece even go? I can't remember what note it starts on or how it goes. And I'm getting more and more nervous as I'm sitting there. My hands are shaking. I can hardly breathe. I'm feeling it now as I talk about it. Isn't that funny? So many years later. But I'm terrified that I'm going to have to walk down by myself into this pit, which is really the stage, and have all these hundreds of people look at me. It felt like it was millions of people. So I just kind of said, okay, I'm hoping that once I get to the piano, my hands will take over, all my practice will have been worth it. Can you see where I'm going with this story? I go and I sit at the piano, and it's dead silent, except for my dad. He always did this. Not on purpose, I'm sure. I think he had a sinus situation or something, but as soon as I heard that, I got even more nervous, because as wonderful as my dad was in some ways, in others, he was terrifying. I had to be perfect. There was no room for mistakes at all. If I brought home an A, well, I was in an A+, and so on. So not only am I scared because I'm playing Bach, which is difficult anyway, playing in front of all these people, I don't have the music with me, and I can't remember how it goes, but now I remember my dad's there in the audience, and oh my God, I'm gonna really have to face consequences after this recital if I don't do well. So I sit there and I put my hands on the piano and I play a note. It doesn't sound like it's the right note. Play another note, doesn't sound like it's the right note. I'm hearing people cough, my dad, my heartbeat. I can hear my heartbeat in my ear. It's so loud. I can't see anything. I've got tunnel vision, and all I can do is just sit there and try not to faint. So after playing a few more notes and just having a completely blank mind, I got up and I walked back to my seat in silence. This was before the days of, oh, let's make everybody feel good. I did not get a participation medal. I didn't even get like applause, like, oh, well, she tried. Nothing. It was dead silent. I walked back, sat in my seat, and I had to think about what I had just done while other people played. And then on the ride home, it was horrible. There was a family fight. Nobody was talking to me. I mean, it was like everything that could go wrong went wrong. So, why am I telling you that? Because whenever I tell my students about performing and how they shouldn't be afraid and they should do it, here's what I always get. Or almost always. Some people have understood right off the bat, but here's what I almost always get. What are you talking about? You don't have stage fright. What do you know? You've been performing since you were a child. You're a professional musician. You play hundreds of shows a year. Why are you telling me? You don't know how I feel when I'm thinking about performing in front of people? Man, I know exactly how you feel. What happened with me was I really loved to play the piano, and I was good at it basically from the beginning, from when I started. I just had a natural interest in it. And almost almost immediately it became something that was very scary because the adults around me, which I'm sure had very good intentions, said, oh, she's good at piano, let's get her in lessons. Good. Now that you're in lessons, you have to perform. Okay, but you have to perform and it has to be perfect. You can't make mistakes. Okay. Now, on top of that, just putting yourself in my place so that when I tell you the rest of this video, you won't be able to dismiss me so quickly by saying, well, what do you know? On top of that, my family moved a lot. I was always going to new schools. Twice I went to schools where I didn't even speak the language. I was smaller than the other kids. I liked to read. I wasn't good at sports. We didn't have money, so I didn't dress well. What more could go wrong? I mean, I got bullied left and right, even sometimes by teachers. So on top of all that, then I'm forced to perform. And I have to make it look good. I can't go up there and say, hey, you know what, I'm scared. You're not allowed to talk to the audience. You go, you bow, you play your thing, you do it perfectly, and then you bow again and you go sit down. And if you don't, consequences. Okay, I would stay up at night, many nights before performance, wondering about what could go wrong. You know, my heartbeat getting faster and faster, even though it was days before performance. And then on the day of, my hands would be shaking and I could be clammy. And I would think, I better not make a mistake or I'm gonna be so embarrassed and people are not gonna like me. And I had stage fright basically well into my performing career as a professional. Are you getting me? Okay, I have actually managed to overcome stage fright. And so I'm going to see if I can help you with it. First, let's talk about what stage fright is. It's basically the fight or flight response, which really helped our ancestors to survive. And so it's a very useful thing to have. In fact, even today. And it's not even something that you think about consciously, it's your body does it. So what happens? Well, I'm not a scientist, so I'm going to explain it to you in the way that I understand it. The fight or flight response is your body prepares either to fight the danger or to run from it as fast as you can, or freeze. There's also the freeze that's involved in that, but it's kind of part of the same thing. So lots of things happen. Hormones are released that set in process certain physical functions. So what happens is your body rushes blood to your muscles so that you can run or fight, okay, so you can be strong. But it takes blood, so it constricts the blood vessels from other places like your skin, which is why your hands get really cold. Mine did before every performance, and I was like, man, I need my fingers to move and they're frozen solid, what am I gonna do? Your heart rate becomes rapid because you're getting ready for this physical thing that's gonna happen, right? You start to sweat because your body's thinking, well, if you're gonna get physically active, you're gonna be hot, so I'm gonna sweat to cool you off. Your digestive system reacts, you know, that's the butterflies in the stomach, and your bladder becomes active, like you wanna go to the bathroom. All these horrible things happen during stage fright, and then you want to go on stage and perform in some way. So all this stuff is happening in response to danger. Now, the danger doesn't even have to be a real danger. It can be in your mind. So if we talk about performing, or even just giving a speech, or anything where you're doing something in front of a group of people, unless they're pointing guns and daggers at you, there's no physical danger. So what's the danger? It's really in your mind, and you're thinking, well, I don't want to mess up because I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want people to think that I don't know what I'm doing. I want people to like me, right? So I can tell you I've been embarrassed lots and lots of times in front of huge groups of people. It didn't kill me. You cannot die of embarrassment. You learn from it. You can laugh at it and you move on. In fact, if you think about it, lots of people do activities that you really can die from, and they have fun doing it. So like, let's say climbing a very tall mountain, or parachuting out of a plane, or navigating a boat by yourself across oceans. Like, all these things have been done many times, and people do them willingly, right? So those things you actually can die from, and people still engage in them. You cannot die from making mistakes in front of a group of people when you're performing. By the way, the #1 fear of most people isn't dying. The number one fear is having to talk in front of a group of people. So as someone said to me once, most people would rather be the dead body in the coffin than the live body delivering the eulogy. I mean, so that is stage fright. Now, what can you do about it? A lot of things. First of all, get your mind straight. Everything starts in your mind. Decide and realize that if you mess up, everything you do is wrong on the stage. At the most, you'll embarrass yourself. The people who are watching you aren't really going to remember that for very long. It's not going to matter too much in their lives. We're all the stars in our own life story, and other people are, supportive players, background actors. At the most, you're somebody's supportive player, and if they love you, they're going to say, man, that was, maybe we can do better next time, or, big deal, whatever. If they don't even know you, who cares? Maybe they'll say, oh, this person got up and messed up. So they probably won't even do that, okay? So just realize that your messing up isn't all that big a deal. And furthermore, when you're giving a presentation of some sort, whether it's a speech or a dance or music or whatever, the point is not to not mess up. If you're playing music for somebody or for a group of people, they're not there to find out if you played the wrong notes. Right? If you go to a concert, are you there going, oh man, I hope they get all the right notes, or ooh, I hope they get wrong notes so I can point and laugh? No. Why do you go to concerts? You go to concerts in order to feel something, right? Whether you're going to, like, I don't know, Beyonce, or you're gonna dance and shake your booty and whatever, woo! Or if you're going to see some classical pianist play and you're just gonna be transported by this Chopin, you're there for a feeling. You're not there to point fingers and laugh and tally up the right notes and the wrong notes. When you're performing, you want to think of it from that angle. The point is not to get the right notes, although it's great if you do. It's wonderful if you do. The point is to convey something, to take the audience on a journey, to give them an experience of some sort. Think of it from that perspective, not I hope I get the right notes. So once you understand that, now, there are some practical things you can do to improve your performance for yourself and for your audience. The first one, the most important one, is to prepare properly. That means if you're memorizing, memorize in a way that you're sure that you're going to remember it. If you're playing with sheet music, practice in such a way that you're not hoping that you get it right, but you've done it so many times that you know you've got this. So proper preparation, super important. It will also give you confidence. You'll say to yourself, oh yeah, I've done this a million times, I'm doing it again. Just so happens that somebody's watching me, or a lot of people are watching me. So once you've prepared properly, you can play in front of one person that you trust completely. Even your dog or your bird or whatever. Play in front of your mom or your significant other, or even call somebody on the phone and say, okay, I'm gonna FaceTime you, pick up, and I'm gonna play for you. So they're not even in the same room with you, but you have an audience. You can record yourself and send it to a friend. So they're not actually even there when you're performing. You can put it on YouTube so that strangers can watch it and tell you what you did wrong. Just kidding about that. But the more you share yourself, the less you start to care about how people are perceiving you. So once you've played for one person, you might go and play in a place where nobody knows you. Sometimes it's much, much easier to make yourself vulnerable, which is what you're doing when you're performing, in front of people you'll never see again. Let's say you're in one of these places where there's a piano, just somewhere, at a hotel or whatever, and it's open. Just sit down and play something. Nobody's even watching you. At the most, people will pass by and go, oh, somebody's playing piano. Or at Costco, sometimes during the year, they'll have pianos out that they're selling, or digital pianos or whatever. And I see people playing all the time. Nobody's paying attention to them. Go play there. If you're, I don't know, in New York and you're in the subway, there's all kinds of stuff happening. Nobody pays attention. Just stand there and sing something, even if you're singing very quietly. If you're walking down an aisle in a supermarket, do a little dance. So what if people see you? You know what will happen probably if someone sees you? They'll smile. You'll make them happy. I do stuff like this all the time now. Before my transformation, I couldn't do any of that. I was so afraid that people were going to laugh at me. Because face it, people had laughed at me a lot. And it hurt. You know, when I was being bullied or whatever, it hurt a lot inside. Like, it didn't hurt physically. But once I understood how to navigate this world of performing, I actually don't really care if people laugh at me. Most of the time, they're just smiling because they're happy. So I do silly things all the time, and I like it. The next step is to practice performing over and over and over and over. Whether that means that you go and stand in front of a group of people and say a poem, or you're at work and you have to do a presentation, or if you're playing piano in front of your guest that came over, or you went somewhere and there's a piano, whatever. The more you do it, the less it becomes this thing to dread, and it just becomes part of your life and not as scary. When you're performing, instead of listening to the voices in your head that are telling you all the things that can go wrong, or whatever, somebody's watching, I want you to instead focus on the music that you're making, and that's it. Don't think about who's watching you. Don't think about yourself. Think about the music. It's really hard to focus on two things at once. Even though we think we're really great multitaskers in today's society, it's really not true. You're focusing on one thing at a time. You're just switching your focus quickly. So if you're performing and you hear the voices, they might even have words, they're just like that feeling, let it go and focus on the music that you're making. Here's something that seems really unrelated, but it's totally related. Because guess what? Everything in your life is related. Ask people, could be strangers, could be people you know, for things that you're pretty sure they're going to say no to. And practice hearing no. And realize that no does not mean they don't like you. No just means no. Whatever you asked right now, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it, or whatever. Practice hearing no over and over. You might want to make it a daily exercise. It makes the world a less scary place because you're proving to yourself through experience that you can be rejected and still live through it, and people will still like you. When you can do that, then start making unreasonable requests of people. One of the ways that I was able to overcome my stage fright was I went through a program where you had to do a community project, and as part of the community project, you had to reach out to people you didn't know that you were afraid of and ask them to contribute somehow to your project. Not money necessarily, but in some way to be part of your project. But one of the things that I did was I was living in LA, and I said I'm going to go to the Home Depot, the Home Depot in Hollywood, which is really busy, and I'm going to ask them to donate some materials for a project that I was doing for kids. Nobody knew I was coming. I didn't have like any publicity, nothing, no marketing department. It was just me. I walked up to the help desk and I said, could I speak with a manager, please? And they said, sure. And a manager came up and he was really busy. He said, yeah, what's wrong? What can I do for you? Barely even looking at me because he had so many things going on. I said, well, I'm doing this project for kids. I introduced myself and I said, would you like to participate? And he said, like, okay, what do I need to do? And I said, I just need some things from you, and I had a list, and I was shaking inside. Like, I was so terrified because I was thinking, what am I doing? I'm disturbing this person while he's working, and I'm asking for free things. Guess what? He gave me everything I wanted. That was like my first big breakthrough in realizing that there's nothing to be afraid of. So my experiences growing up, which had skewed my view of other people and how the world was a scary place, were really not accurate. And so this particular experience was a huge evidence to show me that there are other ways of thinking about the world. These are things that you can do to help yourself get over stage fright. Why would you want to, though? You might say, as many have said to me, mostly my friends who play piano, but also just like adults, students of mine, oh no, I'm not a performer, I'm not trying to be a performer, I don't want to play for other people, I just want to play for myself. Does that sound like you? Okay, I'm going to tell you why you should play for people. You ready? Okay, as I said before, your life is not segmented. Everything affects everything else. So if you're afraid to perform for people, there are other places in your life that's impacting. You may be withholding, as I was. People told me all the time, you're withholding, meaning like I wouldn't share my feelings, I didn't want to be vulnerable. This was before. And it was true. I was always on guard on how people saw me. I needed to put up my performance front. I'm much more free now, expressing my emotions and just being open with people. When you become okay with being vulnerable as a performer, and a performer could just be like, oh, you're playing for your family, you're still performing, it opens up your life in ways you may not have anticipated. For me, I would not have been able to start this YouTube channel if I hadn't overcome the anxiety of performing. I wouldn't have made the piano courses that lots of people are telling me are making the difference between them not being able to play and read and now they can do it. I started my own business, which is very successful because I'm not afraid. I have really good friends around the world because I reached out. I let myself be open. And I'm able to get over bad experiences quicker. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I think it's part of the whole like don't take yourself too seriously thing that happened to me once I was able to let go of stage fright. Is my stage fright gone for good? No. It's not. Every once in a while, especially if I know I haven't prepared as much as I should have, or if someone's watching me that is like really good at what I do and I know they're gonna see my mistakes or whatever, every once in a while like that, a little voice in my head says, what are you doing here? Get out. Get out. This is not where you want to be. And I start feeling those same things, and I see like almost immediately like, okay, here's what I need to do. I need to let that voice talk if it wants, and I need to focus on my performance. So I just do what I told you to do. I just think about the music and I let the music take over that experience or the speech or whatever I'm doing. I immerse myself completely, like diving into water. I don't keep myself like outside and dip my toe in and go, ooh, it's cold. No, I just go dive right in. So that helps me a lot. And so every once in a while, you know, when I do get those feelings of old, that's what I do. By the way, you might know the singer called Adele. She's sold like a few albums. She's talked really openly about having stage fright. So this stage fright thing, it's a universal feeling that people have. Don't think that you're the only one. You're not. Everybody feels it. People handle it in different ways. But do the things I said. It will take time. It's not going to happen overnight. But you got to start somewhere, okay? All right. So let me know what you think about what I just said. Do you have any questions? All right. Now, go out, play for somebody, make mistakes, and know that it's going to be okay. Have fun. I'll see you soon. Bye.